I spent 5 years in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend. I stayed by his side through his darkest times and helped him beat his depression. He always told me he loved me more than anything. He said I was his entire world. But he was also the one who kicked a tooth out of my mouth. He was the one who led the gang that bullied me. Later, I turned that broken tooth into a necklace. I gave it to him as a gift for our first face-to-face meeting. His face went pale, and his whole body shook as he fell to his knees. He begged for my forgiveness, sobbing that he didn't know it was me. "You've pissed off the wrong person." The guy in the black tactical jacket stood in the center of the crowd. His dark eyes were full of malice as he stared me down. His voice was cold, cutting through the air like a blade. "You little bitch, who gave you the right to take Jade's top spot?" One of his lackeys kicked me hard in the stomach. The force sent me flying, and I collapsed onto the cold pavement. Pain flared through my gut, making my face turn ghost white. As soon as I heard the name Jade, everything clicked. Yesterday, the university released the midterm results. I had ranked first in the class, and Jade Jansen had come in second. She had always hated me. This wasn't the first time she'd sent people to harass me. The only difference was that this time, she wasn't here herself. "Are you Jade's people?" I choked out the words, clutching my stomach. "Head, do you even know who this is?" A skinny guy pointed at the leader in the middle. "This is Jade's older brother, Chase Jansen. Messing with her means messing with him. You're dead today." The name Chase Jansen hit me like a physical blow. My heart stopped for a second. My online boyfriend had the exact same name. Was it a coincidence, or was he really my Chase? I scrambled to pull out my phone. I tapped the pinned contact named Chase and started a voice call. A second later, a ringtone echoed from the guy's pocket. He pulled out his phone, and the cold aggression in his eyes vanished. It was replaced by a look of pure, melting tenderness. I was paralyzed with shock. It was him, Chase Jansen, the man I had loved for 5 years. Just as he was about to answer, I cut the call. He immediately started typing, his fingers flying across the screen. "Babe, what's wrong? Is it an emergency? You have to tell me if something's up." My phone buzzed in my pocket with the notification. My heart turned to ice. I never imagined my perfect boyfriend would be this monster. Before today, he was my hero, my gentle soul. I had loved him more than life itself. "Finish her," Chase said, putting his phone away. His eyes turned back to stone, cold and merciless. His lackeys didn't hesitate. One of them grabbed my hair and slapped me across the face several times. I tried to fight back, to scream his name, but I couldn't find my voice. Then Chase stepped forward and kicked me squarely in the face. A blinding pain exploded in my jaw. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth instantly. I felt a tooth come loose, rattling against my tongue. The force was incredible. He had literally kicked a tooth out of my head. I lay on the ground, gasping for air, feeling like I was dying. I coughed, spitting out a glob of blood and the white tooth onto the dirt. "Ha! Look, Chase. She lost a tooth." The guys around me were howling with laughter. Chase didn't laugh. His expression remained chillingly indifferent. He crouched down in front of me, his long fingers pinching my chin hard. "Consider this a warning," he whispered, his voice low and dangerous. "If you ever mess with my sister again, I'll make sure you regret being born." Then he shoved my head away like I was nothing but a piece of trash. The bad blood between Jade and me wasn't new. She had a massive crush on a senior named Saul York. Saul was a genius, so Jade studied like a maniac to get close to him. But Saul was my next-door neighbor growing up. We were close, and he often helped me with my coursework. Jade couldn't stand seeing us together, convinced I was trying to steal her man. She also hated that my grades were better than hers. Every time a test came back, she'd find a new way to teach me a lesson. But this was the most brutal she had ever been. Usually, her hired thugs were afraid of the police and didn't leave marks. This time, Chase was in charge, and he didn't care about the law. He had beaten me within an inch of my life. He had no idea that the girl he just pulverized was his girlfriend. The same girl he called babe and princess every single night. My phone buzzed again, vibrating against my thigh. I wiped the blood from my lips and forced myself to open the app. Chase had sent me several voice messages. I played them, his gentle voice echoing in the damp, dark alleyway. "Babe, why aren't you replying? Are you okay? I ordered a few boxes of your favorite snacks. Don't forget to pick them up. I want a video call tonight. I really miss seeing your face." Each babe felt like a poison needle stabbing my heart. I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that this was the same guy. The violent, cold-blooded man I just saw was the same person speaking so sweetly. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't get enough oxygen. Before this, Chase was the light of my life, the definition of kindness. He was my safe haven. Every day, he talked to me with such patience about everything. He told me what he ate, what he wore, and even sent photos of stray cats. For 5 years, he never missed a day. He always replied within seconds. But now I knew the truth. The version of him online was a total lie. His kindness was a mask, a sick performance. I dragged myself up and limped to the campus clinic to deal with the tooth. The doctor looked at me in horror, asking what happened. I just fell. I whispered. Normally, I ignored Jade's petty bullying. Her family was rich and powerful, and I didn't want the drama. But this time was different. This fall left a wound that wouldn't heal. Honey, you need to be more careful, the doctor sighed. That molar is completely gone. I'll clean the area, but you'll need an implant later. I nodded numbly and pulled out my phone to reply to Chase. I'm at the clinic, I typed. A second later, his name flashed on the screen as he called me. His voice was frantic, filled with genuine concern. What happened, babe? Are you hurt? Talk to me. I stayed silent for a few seconds, trying to keep my voice from shaking. I'm okay. I just fell and knocked a tooth out. I wasn't ready to expose him yet. Not until I had a plan. It wasn't time for the big reveal. Oh my God, how did that happen? He cried, sounding like he was on the verge of tears. Be careful, babe. When you're in pain, I'm in pain too. You're my whole life. I suddenly remembered when he first said those words to me. We met on an old internet forum when he was struggling with depression. He used to post such dark, hopeless things every day. I reached out because I'd been through it too and wanted to help. He told me his family put insane pressure on him to be perfect. They forced him to aim for the Ivy League, and the stress broke him. I called him every day, told him jokes, and stayed on the line until he slept. Slowly, I guided him out of the darkness. On his 20th birthday, he sent me a message. Nora, you are my life. Without you, I wouldn't survive. Stay with me forever. Babe, you still there? You must be hurting so much. His voice snapped me back to the present. I took a deep breath. I'm here. I'm just tired. I'll talk to you after the doctor is done. Okay, please keep me updated. I love you. After we hung up, he sent me dozens of links about dental care. He even sent a meal plan of soft foods I could eat while healing. Take care of yourself, babe. Once we finally meet, I can take care of you in person. Years ago, I lied about my location, saying I lived upstate because I was cautious. He had promised me that after graduation, he'd come find me. We were supposed to start our lives together. The next morning, my face was so swollen I had to wear a mask to class. During the break, I went to the restroom to splash some cold water on my face. As I was in the stall, the door swung open and a group walked in. Ha ha. Jade, look at these photos. A girl laughed mockingly. Nora looks like a total wreck. Chase really did a number on her. I heard Jade's smug, cold voice follow. This is just the beginning. I've got a plan for the Tech Innovation Challenge. I'm going to have her snatched right before the finals. That grad school recommendation will be mine, and so will Saul York. One of her friends sounded a bit worried. Are you sure? What if she goes to the cops? Jade let out a sharp, nasty laugh. With my brother around? Please. Chase knows how to make people disappear. He'll handle it. My blood ran cold. The Tech Innovation Challenge was everything to me. A top 5 finish meant a full-ride scholarship to study abroad for my master's. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a photo from Chase, a sandwich and a carton of milk. Look, babe, I'm being a good boy. I'm eating breakfast every day just like you asked. Before he met me, he never ate breakfast. I had spent months nagging him until it finally became a habit. He used to say, "You're the only thing that makes me feel human, Nora." In my mind, he was a golden boy, a ray of sunshine. In reality, he was a venomous snake hidden in the grass. I typed back. Chase, do you want to meet earlier than planned? I'm coming down to your city next month. He replied almost instantly with a string of messages. Are you serious? I finally get to see you? Babe, I'm so happy I could cry. We had originally agreed to meet after graduation. I wanted to go abroad for my master's and he didn't, but he said he'd follow me. He promised we would build a life together in Europe or the US. I used to spend every night dreaming about our future. I thought it would be a fairy tale. But now the dream was a nightmare, and I was wide awake. When I got back to the classroom, there was a dead rat sitting on my chair. Jade was sitting in the back row, her arms crossed, watching me with a smirk. Everyone else was staring, but no one dared to say a word. I didn't scream or cry. I picked up the dead rat by its tail and hurled it straight at Jade. It landed on her designer sweater, and she shrieked in horror. She lunged at me, her face twisted in a rage, ready to strike. But at that exact moment, Saul York walked in with his books. This was an open lecture, and anyone could attend if they were interested. Saul wasn't supposed to be here, but I had texted him, asking him to come. I knew Jade wouldn't dare act like a psycho in front of him. Sure enough, she immediately dropped her hand and put on a fake smile. Saul, what are you doing here? She asked, her voice turning sweet. Saul gave her a polite, distant nod. I'm interested in the topic today. He walked over and sat right next to me, noticing my mask. Are you okay, Nora? Why the mask? Just a bad cold. I lied, keeping my head down. I opened my chat with Chase and sent him another message. Let's meet on the day of the Tech Innovation Challenge. I'm competing there. We can celebrate as soon as I'm finished. He replied fast. Perfect. I can't wait. Only 20 more days. He sent a bunch of excited emojis. I didn't feel any excitement, only a bone-deep chill. I had spent 5 years loving a ghost. 5 years of constant talking, sharing every secret and every dream. We were the most important people in each other's lives. But there was no happy ending for us, not after what he'd done. I was going to make sure he understood exactly what it felt like to be destroyed. The next day, Jade went on the warpath again. She and her followers cornered me in the bathroom and shoved my head into a sink full of water. Then she stuffed a filthy, wet rag into my mouth to keep me quiet. She slapped me repeatedly, her eyes burning with pure malice. You slut. You think you can flirt with Saul right in front of me? Just you wait. I'm going to have my brother give you a real lesson this time. She kicked me hard in the stomach, sending me crashing to the floor. The pain was so sharp I nearly bit through my lip. As they walked out laughing, I reached under the sink and grabbed my hidden phone. I checked the footage. It had recorded everything perfectly. Just then, Chase's name popped up for a voice call. I answered, and his voice was bubbly and full of life. Hey babe, did you miss me today? Of course I did, I said, my voice sounding raw and raspy. Babe, you sound terrible. What's wrong? Nothing, just that cold I told you about. It's getting worse. You need to go to a doctor, okay? By the way, how's your tooth? I thought about the tooth I had saved in a small box back at the dorm. The dentist said it was unsalvageable. A dark, poetic idea started to form in my mind. Chase, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. I'm bringing you a special gift when we meet. You're going to love it. Really? You're so sweet, babe. I have something special for you, too. I'm so hyped to see you. I love you more than words can say. I knew exactly how much he loved me. For years, he couldn't even sleep unless I stayed on the phone with him. He had tried to visit me before, but I always made excuses to wait. I walked back toward the bus stop, my mind racing. Suddenly, I saw a familiar group on Chase and his thugs. Chase was leaning against a wall, spinning a length of rope around his hand. I heard you've been sniffing around my sister's man again, he said. Didn't you learn your lesson the first time? He stepped toward me, grabbed my jaw, and ripped the mask off my face. I was forced to look directly into his dark, angry eyes. He had sent me photos of his eyes before. They looked so kind and clear in pictures. Now they were full of nothing but violence. You're just a bully helping a brat. I spat. The sound of his hand hitting my face was deafening. The slap was so hard my ears started ringing, and I stumbled back. Suddenly, my phone started ringing loudly. The ringtone was Love Confession, by J. Cho. Chase froze, his hand hovering in midair. You use that song as your ringtone? He asked, his voice shaking slightly. What's your name? I had told him years ago that it was my favorite song, so we both set it as our tone. The song played on sweet, upbeat acoustic guitar notes echoing off the damp, concrete walls of the alleyway. Love Confession, sweet and clear. Chase stood frozen in front of me, his heavy hand still hovering inches from my face. His dark eyes, usually filled with reckless aggression, were wide with a sudden, jarring flicker of doubt. You, his voice rasped, dropping an octave. Where did you get that ringtone? My jaw ached from where his palm had struck me moments ago. Blood trickled down the corner of my mouth, metallic and hot. I swallowed the red taste, staring directly into the eyes of the man who had called me his princess every night for 5 years. Before I could speak, a second ringtone sounded. His phone. In his right pocket, his phone vibrated against his hip. I knew what it was. Without even looking, it was the automated notification from his custom messaging app, pinging him whenever our shared favorite song played nearby on a linked device. Chase's face drained of color. He reached into his coat pocket with a trembling hand, pulling out his screen. On the screen sat his custom wallpaper, a stylized digital illustration I had drawn for his 21st birthday. He looked from his screen to my bruised, swollen face. His breathing grew shallow, uneven. What's your name? He demanded, his voice cracking slightly. I asked you a question. What is your full name? Her name is Nora Vance, a firm, cold voice cut through the alley. Saul York stepped out from the main street corner, carrying 2 thick binders. His eyes swept over the scene. Chase standing over me, my ripped mask on the ground, the blood on my chin. Saul's face hardened instantly. He set his binders on a utility box, walked straight over, and shoved Chase back with enough force to make the taller guy stumble 2 paces. Jansen, Saul growled, stepping squarely between us, shielding me with his broad back. Are you out of your mind? Attacking female students in an alley. Chase didn't fight back against Saul. He didn't even look at Saul. His eyes were locked on me, staring over Saul's shoulder, his pupils dilated with a frantic, unhinged energy. Nora. Chase whispered, the word stumbling off his tongue like a curse. Nora. Vance. Get the hell out of here before I call campus security, Saul warned, his voice icy and dangerous. Or better yet, I'll call your father. I'm sure the dean would love to know why his precious son is assaulting the top-ranked student in the department. Two of Chase's thugs stepped forward, cracking their knuckles. Hey boss, should we jump this guy too? Chase raised a hand, stopping them instantly. Shut up, Chase muttered, his voice sounding hollow, like all the air had been sucked out of his lungs. He stared at me for 3 agonizing seconds, searching my face, my swollen cheek, my bruised eyes, the blood on my collar. Then he turned on his heel and walked away without saying another word. His lackeys looked at each other in utter confusion before rushing to follow him down the street. Nora, are you okay? Saul turned around, his hands hovering over my shoulders, afraid to touch my injuries. God, your face. We need to get you to the ER. Right now. I'm fine, Saul, I whispered, wiping the blood from my lip with the back of my hand. I reached into my pocket and touched the cold, small velvet box holding my shattered molar. Not yet, I thought, watching Chase's retreating back as he stumbled down the pavement like a drunk man. Not yet. I need him whole when I break him. The next morning, I took a bus downtown to the city's historic district, stopping outside a small, bespoke jewelry workshop tucked between an antique shop and a clockmaker. The jeweler, an elderly man named Mr. Henderson, looked up from his magnifying visor as I walked in. Can I help you, young lady? He asked, noticing the large beige band-aid covering my left cheek. I reached into my bag and set the small velvet box on his glass counter. I opened it. Inside lay my root-severed, white molar, complete with the fine, microscopic hairline fracture running down the enamel from where Chase's heavy boot had struck my jaw. Mr. Henderson blinked, adjusting his visor. Is that a human tooth? Yes, I said calmly. I want you to drill a microscopic hole through the top root, encase the base in a delicate cage of twisted sterling silver wire, and string it onto a 19-inch silver snake chain. The jeweler looked at me as if I had grown a second head. Miss, usually, people preserve baby teeth for keepsakes. But a fully formed adult molar? Anest. In silver. It's a gift, I said, offering a serene, pleasant smile. For a man who gave me everything. Mr. Henderson sighed, picking up the tooth with precision tweezers. It will take 3 days. The enamel is cracked, so I'll need to use a clear industrial resin sealant inside the wire cage to ensure it doesn't shatter when worn. Make sure the fracture line stays visible, I requested softly. That's the most important part. Understood. When I left the shop, my phone buzzed in my coat pocket. Chase, babe, are you okay today? Chase, I had the weirdest, most terrible dream last night. I dreamt I hurt you. Chase, I woke up sweating. Please tell me. You're resting. Did you take your medicine? I stood on the sunny sidewalk, looking at his text messages. The contrast was poetic. In real life, he was a violent, psychotic brute who used his fists to carve out space for his spoiled sister. Online, he was a terrified, fragile boy who couldn't sleep without hearing my breathing over a speaker. I typed back. Nora, I'm fine, babe. Just studying for the Tech Innovation Challenge. Norma. Cold is almost gone. The doctor said my mouth is healing nicely. Nora, I picked up your special gift today from the jeweler. It looks beautiful. Chase, really? What is it? Can you give me a hint? Chase, you don't have to spend money on me, babe. Having you come to my city is already the greatest gift of my life. I smiled, a cold, empty expression that didn't reach my eyes. Nora, you'll see it in 19 days. Right after I finish my presentation on stage. Nora, make sure you stand right in the front row, Chase. I want you to be the very first person to receive it. Chase, I'll be there. I promise. I'll bring the white roses you like. 19 days passed in a blur of late-night coding, circuit board assembly, and quiet preparation. Under Saul York's guidance, our team's project, an autonomous AI-driven emergency response drone system, was selected as the flagship entry for our university at the State Tech Innovation Challenge. Jade Jansen had also entered the competition with her own team, relying on an expensive, pre-packaged commercial software kit her father had purchased from an offshore tech firm. On the morning of the competition, the Grand Convention Center downtown was packed with over 2,000 spectators, tech investors, university deans, and media crews. I stood backstage in the prep area, wearing a sharp black blazer, dark trousers, and a fresh white shirt. My face had healed, though a tiny silver-white scar remained at the left corner of my lip, a permanent souvenir from Chase's fist. In my pocket sat a small black velvet box containing the finished silver necklace. At 9:30 a.m., 20 minutes before our presentation slot, Saul walked up to me with a clipboard. Nora, the main display terminal in storage room B has the secondary backup drive for our drone software, Saul said, checking his watch. Can you run back and grab it? I need to verify the encrypted key with the judges. On it, I said, nodding. I walked down the quiet, carpeted corridor behind the main auditorium, turning into the service hallway where the equipment storage rooms were located. Storage room B was a large, windowless room filled with spare server racks, sound cables, and heavy wooden crates. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. Click. The heavy steel door slammed shut behind me. The lock turned from the outside. With a sharp, heavy clack, I whipped around, grabbing the handle. It didn't budge. Outside the door, a familiar, high-pitched laugh echoed through the thin metal panel. Ha ha ha. Have fun in there, Nora. Jade's voice rang out, sweet and venomous. Let's see how you present your little drone project from inside a locked box. Jade. I said, my voice level, standing close to the door. The competition starts in 15 minutes. The judges will disqualify your team if you tamper with other contestants. Tamper? Jade sneered. Who saw me? The cameras in this hallway are undergoing maintenance today. My brother handled the security guards 40 minutes ago. She tapped her acrylic nails against the steel door. By the time someone finds you tonight, the results will already be certified. Saul York will be mine. The master's recommendation will be mine, and you'll just be the loser who couldn't even show up to her own presentation. I heard her high heels clicking away down the corridor, followed by the hushed giggles of her two followers. I stood in the dark storage room. I didn't panic. I didn't scream. Instead, I pulled out my primary smartphone. As Jade had said, the hallway cameras were off, and the room was locked from the outside. But what Jade didn't know was that 3 weeks ago, after her bathroom attack, I had installed a custom emergency cellular signal relay into my team's drone control unit. I opened my custom app, tapped 3 commands, and initiated a remote frequency trigger. 50 feet away, inside the main presentation hall, our team's high-altitude emergency drone, which sat on the prep display table, powered up its dual rotors. With a low mechanical hum, it activated its emergency beacon protocol, transmitting a real-time GPS distress ping directly to the convention center's master security hub and Saul York's tablet. 10 seconds later, the app displayed a red confirmation text. Emergency beacon received. Campus security and Metro police dispatched to storage room B. I leaned my back against the steel door, pulled out my second phone, the burner phone linked to my Nora WeChat account, and checked the time. 9:42 a.m. It was time. I sent a single text to Chase. Nora, babe, I'm at the convention center. I'm waiting for you near the main stage fountain. Nora, wear your black tactical jacket, so I can spot you in the crowd. At 9:50 a.m., the central atrium of the Grand Convention Center was humming with excitement. A massive 3-story indoor waterfall fountain stood in the middle of the glass plaza, surrounded by media banners, flower displays, and hundreds of spectators waiting for the opening ceremony. Standing directly in front of the fountain was Chase Jansen. He looked striking. He wore a crisp, tailored black coat over a white shirt, his dark hair styled neatly away from his face. In his arms he held a massive, magnificent bouquet of 99 imported white roses, wrapped in delicate silver paper. In his right coat pocket, his fingers were tightly clutching a small velvet box containing a platinum engagement ring he had spent 3 months saving for. He stood by the water, his eyes scanning every face in the passing crowd, his chest heaving with nervous, ecstatic energy. Every 10 seconds he checked his phone. 9:52 a.m. Where is she? Chase murmured to himself, his fingers trembling slightly against the stems of the roses. She said she was here. Suddenly, a commotion broke out near the northern entrance corridor. 4 campus security officers and 2 uniformed police officers were escorting a young woman in a black blazer out of the service hallway. Beside her walked Saul York holding a digital tablet. Behind them, 2 officers were holding Jade Jansen and her 2 friends who were screaming frantically. It was a joke. We were just playing a prank on her. You can't arrest us. The crowd in the plaza turned to look at the commotion. Chase turned his head too. His eyes swept past the police officers, past his screaming sister, and landed squarely on the girl in the black blazer. Nora. She walked out into the bright sunlight of the glass atrium. Her black hair fell smoothly over her shoulders. Her face was pale, serene, her dark eyes clear and unbothered. Chase's brow furrowed in instant, violent irritation. That bitch again. Chase muttered under his breath, his knuckles turning white around his rose bouquet. How the hell did she get out? What is she doing here? He took a step forward, intending to march over and order his sister's release, when his phone in his left hand began to vibrate violently. Incoming voice call. Babe Redheart. Chase's entire body went rigid. The anger on his face vanished in an instant, replaced by that soft, doting, desperate smile he reserved only for one person in the world. He quickly hit answer, raising the phone to his ear, his voice dropping into a gentle, honeyed whisper. Babe, where are you? I'm right by the main fountain holding your white roses. Are you close? Across the 50-foot expanse of the marble plaza, the girl in the black blazer stopped walking. In full view of Chase, Saul, the police officers, and hundreds of spectators. Nora reached into her blazer pocket, pulled out a phone, and lifted it to her left ear. Through Chase's phone speaker, her voice came through, not the distorted, soft-filtered tone she had used on compressed gaming calls, but her real crisp, crystal-clear natural voice. Look straight ahead, Chase. Chase froze. The world around him seemed to lose all sound. The roaring of the indoor waterfall, the shouting of his sister, the murmur of the crowd, everything dropped into a terrifying, suffocating void of absolute silence. He slowly lowered his phone an inch from his ear. Across the sunlit plaza, Nora stood motionless, holding her phone against her cheek, looking directly into his eyes. You. Chase stammered into the microphone, his voice barely a breath. You. Why are you on her phone? Nora didn't answer through the speaker. She hung up the call. She walked slowly across the polished marble floor toward him, her black leather boots clicking rhythmically against the stone. Step. 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 Chase stood paralyzed by the fountain, holding his 99 white roses, his mind fracturing into 1,000 jagged, uncomprehending pieces. No. Chase whispered, taking a blind step back, his heel hitting the stone lip of the fountain. No, 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 no. This is a mistake. This is a joke. Nora stopped 2 feet away from him. She looked at the white roses in his arms. She looked at his pale, terrified face. Happy 5-year anniversary, Chase, Nora said softly. Her voice was the exact same voice that had read him bedtime stories when he was crying in his dark bedroom 3 years ago. Chase dropped the bouquet. 99 pristine white roses hit the wet marble floor, scattering across the wet tile. Nora. Chase whimpered, his hands shaking so violently he could barely hold them up. You are? Nora? Nora didn't answer with words. She reached into her blazer pocket, pulled out a small black velvet box and flipped the lid open. Inside, resting on a bed of dark silk, sat a sterling silver necklace. Hanging from the silver chain was a human molar, cracked down the middle, encased in silver wire, gleaming coldly under the skylight. Nora lifted the necklace from the box, holding the silver chain between her fingers, dangling the tooth inches from his face. Do you recognize this, Chase? Nora asked, her tone sweet, gentle, and utterly devoid of mercy. It's the tooth you kicked out of my mouth 3 weeks ago in the alley behind the library. Boom. The world didn't just end for Chase Jansen. It collapsed into a black hole of pure, un adulterante d'horror. He stared at the molar dangling from the silver chain. He saw the hairline fracture running through the enamel. He remembered the feeling of his heavy leather boot impacting the girl's jaw. He remembered the sound of her teeth rattling against her tongue. He remembered her coughing up blood onto the dirt. And then he remembered what he had texted his babe 10 minutes later. Babe, are you okay? When you're in pain, I'm in pain too. You're my whole life. Arg. A gut-wrenching, pathetic, animalistic gasp tore from Chase's throat. His knees completely gave out beneath him. He didn't just kneel, he collapsed heavily onto the hard marble floor, his hands slamming into the puddle of water surrounding his dropped roses. No. 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 Chase screamed, grabbing at his own head, tearing wildly at his hair, his face contorting into a grotesque mask of agony and terror. Not you. It can't be you. My Nora is in upstate New York. My Nora is sweet. My Nora would never. I lied about living upstate, Chase, Nora said, standing over him like a marble statue, looking down at his weeping form with cold, clinical detachment. I lived 2 blocks away from you for 3 years. I walked past your house every single morning. Chase lifted his tear-streaked face, his bloodshot eyes begging her his chest, heaving so hard he was hyperventilating. Babe, please. He sobbed, crawling forward on his hands and knees, across the wet tile, reaching out his shaking, water-covered hands to grab the hem of her trousers. I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know it was you. Jade told me you were a bully. She said you were trying to ruin her life. I was just protecting my sister. You didn't just protect your sister, Chase, Nora replied, stepping back cleanly, leaving his hands clutching empty air. You enjoyed it. You enjoyed pinching my chin, calling me trash, and telling me you'd make me regret being born. I was blind. Chase howled, beating his fists against the marble floor until his knuckles cracked and bled against the tile. I'm a monster. Slap me. Kill me. Nora, please. Strike me back. He reached out wildly, grabbing his own coat collar, ripping the fabric open, thrusting his chest toward her. Kick me. Kick my teeth out. Do it. Just don't look at me like that. Please. Please don't look at me like I'm a stranger. Jade, who was being held by 2 police officers 30 feet away, stared at her brother in absolute, horror-stricken shock. Chase! Jade shrieked, her voice cracking. What are you doing? Why are you kneeling to that bitch? Get up and beat her. Chase turned his head slowly toward Jade. The look in his eyes wasn't the look of a protective older brother anymore. It was the look of a wild, rabid beast whose entire soul had just been torn to pieces by the person standing beside him. You. Chase rasped, his voice dropping into an unholy, terrifying growl as he slowly stood up from the floor, his clothes dripping with water and blood. He marched toward Jade. Chase? Jade stammered, backing away as far as the police officer's grip. Aloud, her face turning paper white. Chase, what's wrong with you? Slap. The sound echoed through the entire three-story atrium like a gunshot. The force of Chase's strike sent Jade spinning, knocking her off her feet, sending her crashing onto the floor. Her lips split open instantly, blood dripping onto her designer sweater. You ruined my life. Chase roared, lunging at his sister, his face contorted in pure, unhinged madness before 3 police officers tackled him to the ground, pinning his arms behind his back. You made me hurt her. You dirty lying snake. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. The grand atrium descended into absolute, chaotic pandemonium. Reporters scrambled to capture the footage, camera flashes exploding like lightning storms. Spectators shouted, security guards blew whistles, and Jade lay on the floor weeping hysterically, clutching her bleeding face. In the middle of the storm, Nora stood calmly. She picked up her silver necklace, carefully placed it back inside the black velvet box, snapped the lid shut, and slid it into her blazer pocket. She turned to Saul York, who was standing nearby, watching her with deep, quiet awe. Our presentation starts in 5 minutes, Saul, Nora said, her voice smooth, steady and radiant. Let's go win first place. The trial and academic review took less than 3 weeks. With the audiovisual recordings Nora had gathered, including the hidden phone footage of the sink assault, the recorded phone calls from the day of the first beating, and the drone security logs from Storage Room B, the university board acted with brutal efficiency. Jade Jansen was permanently expelled from the university, her academic credentials revoked, and she was formally indicted by the district attorney on 3 counts of felony assault, unlawful confinement, and criminal conspiracy. Her father tried to use his corporate influence and legal team to buy her way out, but the public release of the Atrium video, which went viral on national news with over 50 million views, made his company an instant social pariah. Within 14 days, 3 major corporate investors pulled their capital from the Jansen Group. The family stock plummeted 60%, forcing Jade's father to resign as CEO to prevent total bankruptcy. Chase Jansen fared even worse, because he had participated directly in physical violence resulting in permanent bodily harm, Nora's lost tooth and jaw fracture. He was arrested as the primary co-conspirator. However, he never made it to a standard trial. 2 days after his arrest, while being held in county detention, Chase suffered a total, irreversible psychological breakdown. He refused to eat, refused to speak to his lawyers, and spent 16 hours a day kneeling on his cell floor, clawing at his own chest, screaming Nora's name into the dark walls until his vocal cords bled. The court-appointed forensic psychiatrist diagnosed him with acute, severe psychotic trauma induced by extreme psychological dissonance. He was transferred indefinitely to the secure ward of the state psychiatric hospital. On a crisp, sunny afternoon in late October, Nora walked through the gates of the university for the final time. She wore a dark green coat over a simple white sweater, carrying a leather messenger bag containing her official acceptance letter to the Master of Science program at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, a full-ride merit scholarship awarded to her for winning first place at the Tech Innovation Challenge. As she reached the main fountain near the gates, a man stood waiting by a parked black sedan. It was Chase's father, Mr. Jansen. He looked 20 years older than his age, his suit rumpled, his hair grayed at the temples. He held a thick manila envelope in his trembling hands. Miss Vance, Mr. Jansen said, his voice hoarse and bowed with immense, crushing shame. Nora stopped, looking at him with cool detachment. Mr. Jansen. I came to apologize, the broken patriarch whispered, holding out the heavy envelope. There is $2 million in this trust account. It's restitution. For your medical bills, your tuition, your future. My son. My daughter. They destroyed themselves, but I know that doesn't undo the pain they caused you. Nora looked at the envelope. She didn't reach for it. Keep your money, Mr. Jansen, Nora said softly. I earned my own future. Miss Vance, please. Mr. Jansen wept quietly, his shoulders shaking. Chase asks for you every single day. The doctors say he won't survive the winter if he doesn't eat. He just wants to see you once. Just 5 minutes. Please, tell him you forgive him. Nora turned her gaze toward the bright, clear blue sky above the campus buildings. She remembered the 5 years she had spent sitting in her quiet bedroom, holding her phone, telling jokes to a lonely boy on the internet, guiding him out of the dark, believing she was saving a soul. She remembered the feeling of his heavy boot breaking her jaw. "Tell him," Nora said, her voice dropping into an absolute, beautiful, unshakable calm, "that I left his gift on the nightstand in his hospital room." "The silver necklace?" Mr. Jansen blinked through his tears. "Yes," Nora smiled, a light, serene, breathtaking smile. "Tell him to wear it every day, so that every time it touches his skin, he remembers exactly who gave it to him." She turned on her heel and walked toward the waiting airport shuttle. Mr. Jansen stood by his car, holding his $2 million, watching the girl in the green coat walk away into the sunlight, completely untethered, completely free. 1 year later, the autumn air over Lake Zurich was crisp, clear, and scented with pine and fresh mountain rain. Inside the glass-walled research laboratory at ETH Zurich, 23-year-old Nora Vance stood in front of a holographic display terminal, making final adjustments to her team's new bioadaptive neural mapping software. Beside her, Sol York set 2 warm cups of Swiss hot chocolate on the marble workstation. "The European Patent Office just approved our primary patent, Nora," Sol smiled, his eyes bright with genuine pride. "We're officially funded for the next 4 years." "That's great news, Sol," Nora smiled, taking a sip of the warm chocolate, letting the rich sweetness wash over her tongue. Her phone on the desk chimed with an international news alert from her old city's municipal portal. She tapped the screen casually. State medical update. Patient Chase Jansen remains in permanent long-term psychiatric custody. Attending physicians report 0 cognitive recovery. Subject remains non-communicative, except for repeatedly clutching a silver tooth pendant worn around his neck. Nora glanced at the text for 3 seconds. Her pulse didn't change. Her heart didn't ache. She felt no anger, no satisfaction, and no lingering grief. To her, the name Chase Jansen was simply a closed file in an old drawer, a ghost from a nightmare she had long since demolished. She swiped the notification away, locked the screen, and slid the phone deep into her coat pocket. "Nora," a junior research fellow called out from the main lab doors, waving a stack of datasheets. "The chancellor is waiting for us in the auditorium for the award ceremony." "Coming," Nora called back, her voice clear, strong, and full of life. She picked up her tablet, adjusted her collar, and stepped out onto the sunlit balcony overlooking the deep blue waters of the lake. The sun was bright, the horizon was endless, and the road ahead was entirely, gloriously her own.